throughout Micronesia, we clearly recognize that we depend on each other. We depend on the land, we depend on the ocean. And the ocean is the most valuable part of our culture. Unless we preserve our culture, we as people will be disfranchised. Right now, globally, shark is found to be a highly valuable product. So it has commercial value. Now, it's just like everything else. If you overuse and if you abuse, then there is going to be a problem. If you overfish tuna, for instance, you will clearly deplete that valuable resource, and then you would not have anything in the future. We have this huge misunderstanding about shark. All I know is that shark plays a critical role in the ecosystem, part of the creation. If you don't understand, why not let it be instead of destroy something that just because you don't understand, you try to destroy. No, we should not, and we need to maintain them because they play that role which we do not yet fully understand, but we know as part of creation they have a role to play.
Conservation in these resource-poor atolls was always part of the life cycle. There was never a time when people said the entire atoll is open for exploitation. Traditionally, it was the leaders of the tribes, the clans, that declared sanctuaries, that declared taboo land, that declared taboo fishing areas. It is part of their ceremonial and their traditional authority. We recognize the shark as the top of the food chain. We recognize the shark as a necessary policeman of the seas. We recognize the shark in some of the communities as an actual god. You need to reawaken in people this sense of belonging to the ocean. And when you live in the Pacific and these small islands, you belong to the ocean as well as you belong to the small land on which you stand.
The ocean is alive. Deep waters shield secret worlds, and we imagine the unknown in tall tales and myth. But we often get the facts wrong, and of all creatures in the sea, sharks are perhaps the most misunderstood. Sharks are the villains in most ocean tall tales, and it's easy to buy into the fear. But the truth is that sharks, for the most part, are completely uninterested in us, even scared of us. It's a rare experience for a diver to see one underwater because sharks are, by nature, shy and cautious. The very few shark attacks that do occur are often instances where a shark mistakes a swimmer for its usual prey, like a sea turtle. Sharks just don't want to be near people, and the statistics support this. In 2009, people swam in the ocean over 7 billion times. Out of those 7 billion, there were only 60 recorded attacks worldwide. Out of those attacks, only 5 people died. Imagine 5 grains of sand from an entire beach. By contrast, an estimated 24,000 people die from lightning every year. The Jaws movies and other tall tales not only give sharks a bad name, they miss the most important point. Sharks are vital to nearly every marine ecosystem. They naturally patrol the open ocean, the reefs rising from the seafloor, and even the mangrove forests in the shallows. Everywhere sharks are found, they are absolutely necessary. These are not the monsters of movies, but they are the masters of the reef, and they seem to know it. Seeing a shark underwater is to truly witness nature at its most awe-inspiring. Marine ecosystems are extremely complex. Not even the world's best scientists completely understand how they work. But we do know that sharks are critical to the health of most marine systems. They help maintain the intricate dynamic balance that keeps the ocean healthy. If sharks are removed, the consequences can be severe and unpredictable. It is easier to understand by picturing a small town. As in any community, everyone plays an important role, and if anyone were to stop doing his or her job, it could set off a cascade of consequences, like a line of falling dominoes. For example, imagine if people stopped repairing boats. Eventually, the boats would break down, fishermen wouldn't be able to bring in enough fish, and the town could go hungry. The simple fact is, in a human community, we all depend on each other to do our jobs, and the very fabric of our society would tear if we didn't. An ecosystem is no different. Any disruption, a single falling domino, will topple other dominoes in its path. Scientists call these lines of falling dominoes tropic cascades, and they're very hard to predict. For instance, researchers in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands found a critical connection between tiger sharks, seabirds, and 2 important species of fish, tuna and jacks. With fewer tiger sharks, there were fewer tuna and jacks. With more tiger sharks, there were more tuna and jacks. But why? As it turns out, young jacks and tuna seek shelter near the shores of islands, and a variety of seabirds target the juvenile fish as a principal food source. Tiger sharks, on the other hand, eat seabirds. In undisturbed areas, these species achieve a dynamic balance, with the tiger sharks keeping the number of seabirds in check. But in areas where tiger sharks were removed, seabird populations increased and consumed more young fish, leading to a crash in local stocks of tuna and jacks. The disappearance of sharks started another chain of falling dominoes in the Caribbean, where sharks tend to feed on groupers. On reefs where sharks disappeared, groupers were initially much more plentiful, which might sound like a blessing for fishermen. But the imbalance actually had unforeseen and devastating consequences. The groupers, with fast metabolisms and ravenous appetites, preyed heavily upon parrotfish and other fish species that eat algae. With these fish gone, the algae spread unchecked, and the ancient reef communities suffocated and died. With their reef gone, populations of all fish suffered, including the groupers. As it is in the human community, each creature in the ocean community plays an essential role. Diversity is absolutely necessary to safeguarding the health of our oceans. Sharks regulate all and help maintain that balance. Though we may never understand all the roles sharks play, the indisputable fact is that these animals are critically important, and when they're removed, the dominoes start to fall. It may be obvious by now that the last dominoes in a trophic cascade are people. We are all intimately connected to these ecosystems, and their health reflects directly back on us. A healthy ocean brings in tourists and supports sustainable fishing. But we can easily damage the system that sustains us. In truth, our community is not just a collection of people. It includes all of the creatures in the ocean, in the air, and on land. We must recognize that we rely on this extended community and protect it. This is our job, and every other member of the community depends on us to do it well. And only if we do it well will fishermen continue to fill their boats. The news from our oceans is not good. It is sometimes hard to hear, but we must listen if we are to learn from our mistakes. Throughout the oceans, destructive fishing practices have been consuming everything in their path, like a forest fire without smoke. One by one, fisheries around the world have been collapsing, unable to withstand the intense pressure. In the past 3 decades, fueled by increasing demand for shark fin soup in Asia, sharks have become the victims of this blaze. Sharks are not ordinary fish. In contrast to popular commercial fish species, they grow slowly, taking many years to reach sexual maturity, and then produce relatively few young. This makes them extraordinarily vulnerable to fishing. Even smaller species of sharks, once thought to be less vulnerable, have special biological traits. One small shark, called the spiny dogfish, carries her pups for almost 2 years, the longest known gestation period of any vertebrate. Yet we have treated sharks as if they were ordinary fish, fishing them just as aggressively as less vulnerable species. And we have had an extreme impact on global populations. Because of their biological vulnerability, even modest catches can result in significant declines in shark populations. But driven by escalating demand for shark products, sharks have been targeted relentlessly by industrial fishing fleets across the globe. And as a result, their populations have not merely declined, they have plummeted. Once common throughout the Mediterranean, the short-fin mako is now classified as critically endangered. Populations of hammerhead sharks in the northwest Atlantic have been ravaged, both directly and incidentally. Silky sharks in the Gulf of Mexico have become the victims of unchecked industrial longlining. Sandbar sharks in the northwest Pacific have been nearly wiped out by intense longlining. The oceanic whitetip, already critically endangered in the North Atlantic, is nearly gone from the central Pacific. Sand tiger shark populations in Australia have declined by over half as a result of a deep water trawling industry. The non-aggressive whale shark was relentlessly hunted off the coast of Taiwan in the 1980s and 1990s. Even the great hammerhead shark, regal nomad of the tropical seas from the South Indian Ocean to the coast of Africa, has suffered catastrophic losses. But these stories barely scratch the surface. Hundreds of studies have documented severe declines in regional shark populations. Species by species, region by region, this story is repeating itself again and again. Sharks are no match for long lines, gill nets, and the seemingly insatiable demand for shark fin soup. Worldwide, we are catching up to 200,000 sharks per day, an estimated 73 million sharks each and every year. As a result, 3/4 of oceanic pelagic sharks and rays, and 30% of all sharks and rays are threatened or near threatened with extinction. A fire is raging in our oceans, but we don't know it because we can't see the smoke. And just as fire can wipe out entire villages, this fire threatens to consume and destroy a delicate balance in the oceans that has evolved over 400 million years. But the fate of sharks is not sealed. The tide is changing, and shark conservation is starting in country after country. In September of 2009, the Pacific island nation of Palau, in an unprecedented move, declared all of its waters a shark sanctuary. The president of Palau went one step further. On the floor of the United Nations General Assembly, he announced the shark sanctuary and challenged the rest of the world to follow suit. In February 2010, Honduras declared a moratorium on shark fishing in all of its waters. In March of 2010, the Indian Ocean island state of the Maldives joined the movement, declaring Maldivian waters a shark sanctuary. In the United States, a major loophole that enabled shark finning vessels to bypass laws intended to stop the shark fin trade was finally closed with passage of the Shark Conservation Act of 2010. And in June of 2010, the governor of Hawaii signed into law the Shark Fin Prohibition Act, outlawing the possession, sale, and trade of shark fins. These first steps have sent a wave of inspiration across the ocean. In December of 2010, school children in the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands successfully petitioned their governor, and 1 month later, the Northern Marianas became the second place in the world to ban the shark fin trade. A movement had begun. Students in neighboring Guam rallied to the cause, successfully lobbying their government to enact a shark fin ban. In June 2011, the president of Honduras further strengthened 2010 protections and declared the waters of Honduras a shark sanctuary. And in July 2011, Bahamians protected sharks throughout Bahamian waters. But it didn't stop there. This resounding chorus of voices is continuing to grow into new sanctuaries, fin trade bans, and other important legislation. Encouraged by key environmental organizations, inspired by impassioned children, and supported by communities that have decided to take a stand, people are repainting the political seascape, answering the call to conserve sharks and safeguarding the future of our oceans.
The creation of a sanctuary for sharks is very important to the FSM as a small nation, because as we speak today, there is exploitation, there is commercial benefit that is going outside to the bigger countries, and very little, if any, is benefiting the people of FSM. Sustainability is nothing new to Pohnpei and our cultures. It's always been the way we live is a sustainable way of living. In the case of the shark, it's like an icon. So the idea of protecting the shark, especially here in Pohnpei, is not a new idea. It's rooted in the culture.
My first visit here was when I was in the 6th grade, I think. And there is a seawall on the back of us. We were told that if you are a first visitor here, you would go out there and you'd throw a rock out in the ocean. And if sharks come in, then you jump in. If you throw and no sharks come in, then don't jump. And you know, I kept wondering, I said, well, what is the explanation of that? Obviously, my first reaction when the sharks come in is I'll run away, I won't jump. But if they don't show up, I would be willing to jump. Anyway, the explanation was, if they come in and you jump, you are just another rock. All around the island, if you go around there is a great deal of respect for places. Things are changing now, but we want to continue to respect our land. In the spirit of collaboration, the notion of respect for the environment, you can put the two together and affiliate that with Nanmadol itself.
Well, my experience, you know, I was called the shark finner, and it all started back in 1997. 2 years into the College of Micronesia, there was this opportunity of fisheries training. Here I was on a fishing boat, wearing a hard hat, holding a bloody machete, cutting off fins from sharks. I had no choice but to do the work, not knowing how important sharks are to the environment, not knowing that if such activities continue on, it will certainly upset or endanger the dynamic equilibrium of the marine ecosystem. The sad thing about that was that in every catch there would be sharks, and these are, you know, separated just to be finned and thrown back into the water to die slowly, hopeless. That wasn't a very good experience, though I learned a lot from it. And I could remember one time filling up a basket about 3 square feet of shark fin and trying them on the ship. There would be a person there to get those fins. And I was always wondering what those were for. What I saw on the fishing boats and what I did to the shark just feels inhumane. And so we need to distinguish between what's sustainable and what's industrial exploitation. To know that these shark fins ends up in a restaurant to be a luxurious, expensive food, it made me realize that it's totally not right.
think that what really pushed us over was when we discovered that some of the tuna longliners here would actually come in with nothing but shark. And that became very obvious. People started reporting that they were seeing pallet loads of shark carcasses on the dock here in Majuro. So we pushed this law through, banning any kind of fishing of shark. In the final reading, it was unanimous. We need to spread the word, and we need to enact legislation that's not just enforceable, but enforced.
I've been an observer for almost 10 years and working with the observer program for almost 15 years now. The late 90s, when I was an observer, I saw a lot of sharks. When I say a lot of sharks, in one fad set we probably have 40, 50 sharks, even more. I can remember correctly, at one stage I counted like 818 sharks landed on deck. Last year when I made my last trip, it was like less than 8, 5. We've killed a lot of sharks. The law is very clear. It's zero tolerance for shark. That means, one, you still will have to pay the penalty. But it's a big house, you know, you're like, if they hide something, you know, you probably have to look very carefully to find where they are hiding it. The port sampler said he found this shark on board, and looks like it's a little black tip. In Marshall Islands, even having possession of shark on board, you can get fined. Maybe after dinner, can you open it? I would like to have a look inside.
Which one?
All.
In the last year, we have made some significant arrests and confiscation of stolen fins. We have levied some fines of substance that make the violators turn their heads. We have generated income from the law, and we have made believers out of those who thought that it would not be enforceable. But even if you had 3 or 4 large sanctuaries in the Pacific, if the others are not sanctuaries and if people continue to kill sharks there, the balance will still be lost. We need to do it everywhere. Nearly 100 million sharks that are killed each year is testament to the fact that if we don't do it now, by the time people wake up to the fact that it needs to be done, we will have lost. We cannot wait any longer. We see this move to save the shark as not just a Marshallese issue, but a world issue, a global issue. I think that the prospect of making the Pacific, the whole Pacific a shark sanctuary is very real and very doable within the next few years.
President Toribio in 2009 declared Palau as the first shark sanctuary in the world. We know that sharks cannot be managed by one country. As islanders, as resource managers, as stewards of the environment, we have to work together to ensure sustainability of these resources. It's what we owe our children in the future, that we make sure we leave behind the same resources that we were given when we were born.
Most adults today learn from the kids what we should have learned some time back. When our own kids are dressed up in crash skirts and are saying the traditional language and doing chants that remind us of the value of our lives, our culture here in Pohnpei, it makes me very, very proud, because we now know for sure that our way of life is actually better than any imported goods. To To the young kids, I would really request and encourage that you also develop the respect for the sanctuary of the sharks, because you will be living in the future whereby this sanctuary is already established, and you will be the ones benefiting from it, from a cultural, spiritual, and economic benefit from this sanctuary. And you will become a very proud people.
Got me thinking how the world would be without sharks and the rest of beauty, which it